Oh, hello. You're here for the Deltarune Theorist Club meeting? I think you're a bit early. Right now I'm in the middle of a lesson. But we're almost done here. If you don't mind, you can wait over there on that empty chair until class ends. Looking at this picture, you might be wondering who these two dapper-looking fellows are. This here's a photo of the famous theoretical physicist Albert Einstein and his closest friend, Swiss-Italian engineer Michel Basel. Einstein and Basel had first met in Zurich, Switzerland in the late 1890s as students, and grew closer together after working alongside each other at the Federal Patent Office. Together, they'd bond over their shared love of physics and enjoy lengthy conversations after work about scientific theory. For many years after, their friendship would continue in the form of letters, where they discuss a variety of complex topics such as quantum mechanics, the unified field theory, relativity, the arrow of time, and also some very human, personal matters too. Then comes the years 1905 and 1915, where Albert Einstein would come to publish his theories of special and general relativity. These papers propose some groundbreaking new discoveries, including the idea that space and time are inextricably linked, that it's from the curvature of space that gravity arises, and that time passes at different rates for different observers, depending on their relative motion. It was his breakthroughs regarding space-time that revolutionized science and our understanding of the universe itself. And at the end of his original paper on special relativity, Einstein thanked his friend, writing, "In conclusion, let me note that my friend and colleague M. Basel steadfastly stood by me in my work on the problem here discussed, and that I am indebted to him for many a valuable suggestion." This close companionship and scientific collaboration of theirs carried tightly for over 50 years, until March 1955, when Michel Basel passed away at the age of 81. In the condolence letter he wrote to Basel's bereaved family, Einstein had written these following famous words: "Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." Albert Einstein would later pass away on April 18, 1955, exactly 34 days after his dear friend, Michel Basel. So, before the next few chapters come out, I really wanted to make another UTDR theory video. Or, thinly veiled yap session disguised as a UTDR theory video. So if you're down for that, be my guest! In my last two videos, I talked about cosmology and space, but I feel like I'm missing another integral piece to the Deltarune puzzle, and I'm not quite sure what that is. As we all know, time is a crucial component within UTDR. First, there's Flowey, who before the events of Undertale had harnessed the power of time travel and resets. Then there's Sans, who is aware of the existence of other timelines despite not sharing memories between them. Then there's Gaster, who shattered across time and space and is conducting his little science experiments across the fabric of reality. Finally, we got Ralsei saying all of this about the prophecy, which I think a lot of us, myself included, skimmed over when we played Deltarune. Needless to say, from these examples, it seems like space and time are somewhat important for the story that Toby Fox is trying to tell. And since I've already dived a little too deep into space, I guess it's time to finally talk about time.
Get it? Like time and time? Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Wait, don't go! So, now that you're here listening, totally on your quote-unquote free will, why don't I just direct your eyes over to this little diagram over here, which illustrates several theories regarding time, specifically about its metaphysical or ontological nature. Ontology meaning the philosophical study of being, existence, and reality. And, wondering about the nature of time isn't really a new thing. For instance, there's John McTaggart with his best-known work from 1908, The Unreality of Time, which dives into the A and B series of understanding time and concludes that reality fundamentally cannot be temporal. But besides that, I wanted to take a closer look at this diagram, which illustrates 3 theories of time that all ponder about the existence of the past, present, and future. So, let's begin, starting with presentism! According to the theory of presentism, only the present moment is real. The past, which once was, is no longer, and the future doesn't exist yet. To better understand, a fitting analogy for presentism could be like saying that the world is like an Etch-a-Sketch, where everything that's written on it is temporary and fleeting. Past, present, and future drawings can't all exist on the same canvas. The past has already been erased, and the future has not yet been inscribed. Moving on to the next theory of time, may I introduce
the growing block universe.
According to the growing block model of time, only the past and present exist, while the future is yet to be formed. And if the world, according to presentism, is a constantly changing three-dimensional slice, like the constantly changing canvas of an Etch-a-Sketch, then the universe, according to the growing block model, is a growing 4D block with each new slice consisting of our three-dimensional slices of time. So, according to presentism, only the present is real. Then according to the growing block model thing, the present and the past are real, but the future doesn't exist yet. Any questions? No, yeah, you get it, right?
Huh?
So, according to this theory, only the past and present exist and are fixed as they happen, while the future is open to change and possibility. To tack on another analogy here, if the world according to presentism is like an Etch-a-Sketch, then according to the growing block universe, the world would be like this absurdly big and long, interactive webcomic, with all the audience reading it as it's being created and the author still continuously adding new pages. And with ongoing webcomics, only the past and current pages can exist, while the ending is yet to be formed. Finally, last but not least, may I introduce the third theory of time.
Eternalism!
Something got in my throat, sorry.
Eternalism!
So this final theory, eternalism, is also known as the block universe, and it states that the block comprising the universe, from its beginning to its inevitable end, already exists in its entirety and is eternally fixed across an extra dimension that we, its 3D inhabitants, only perceive slice by slice. So according to this theory, the past, present, and future are all simultaneously real. And if they all exist on an equal plane, then time, which can be described as the continuous change and progression of things, isn't really real in the grander sense. It's only a byproduct of our limited perception and understanding of the world. Has the existential dread kicked in yet? Well, I'm just getting started. Anyways, to bring back my little analogies, while presentism is like an etch-a-sketch and the growing block universe is like an ongoing webcomic, the world according to eternalism is kind of like any completed narrative work, like a movie or a book or finished cartoon, where the first and final parts and everything in between all exist simultaneously as we experience it. And it's not like pages vanish as we read them, nor do new pages magically appear every time we turn the page. When you add an extra dimension, the past, present, and future can all exist all at once. And so, according to the theory of eternalism, our world is kind of like a 4-dimensional flipbook comprised of 3D pages, or like a 4D movie comprised of 3D frames. And hypothetically, if there was a hyperdimensional observer outside of our world, then like how we can flip through the 2D pages of a book or press play and watch the frames of a show, they can theoretically flip back and forth through our 3D pages in time. And let's just say this external observer had a way to manipulate things within, like say control one of our people and influence everything going on inside. Couldn't they just play with our world's history as they please? Almost as if, to them, our world is a video game. But don't worry, that's just like an insane sounding hypothetical. Hyperdimensional gamers aren't even real. And if they were, why would they even want to play with our world in the first place when they've got hyperdodecahedrons, and glomes, and cubenders, and spherenders, and gongles? I wish our shapes were as funny sounding and incomprehensible as theirs. Where was I? Oh yes, let's move on to possibilism and the philosophy of video games. So we talked about 3 theories of time that are kind of like an etch-a-sketch, a really long and big ongoing webcomic, and a completed book. But where do video games fit in? Specifically the choice-driven ones. And is there a philosophy that encapsulates its very essence? Well, the previous temporal theories I've mentioned concern one singular timeline, but what about many? Here's where I introduce actualism and possibilism. Actualism is the modal philosophical belief that the only things that actually exist are the things that currently do exist and have existed in the past. To an actualist, possible things and possibilities aren't real until they actually happen and denies any possibility beyond that. According to actualism, the only world that can ever exist is the one we live in right now. On the other hand, possibilism is the antithesis to actualism and suggests that possible entities and its properties also exist beyond what is actually real. It argues that we should broaden our understanding of reality to also include what is merely just possible. Philosopher David Lewis had proposed a related idea called modal realism, which suggests that possible entities exist in the same way that you and I do, that is, contained within their own worlds, and that all these separate possible worlds are all simply spatio-temporally isolated from one another. In the field of quantum physics, there's a similar idea called the many worlds interpretation, where every possible quantum outcome exists in its own parallel world. So, Schrödinger's Birdly is both frozen and not frozen, in their own separate save files, that is. And if the universes within video games are possibilist in nature, let's imagine that instead of being one eternalist block universe, there are many different block universes, all nicely packaged together in their own little playsets. In some cases, you might come across a selection where the variety isn't as distinct as you'd hoped they'd be. Yeah, they've got some surface level differences, but when you look a little deeper at their core and compare, they're all kind of the same. But hey, you're having a lot of fun playing with them anyways, so it doesn't really matter. And with other sets, they might contain pieces where their tops are diametrically different. You gotta choose one to play with first, but which do you choose? The top of one block promises a greater good, but you know selfishly deep down, your heart chooses the other. And sometimes, a set comes out where there's loads of different blocks, all distinct in both minute and drastic ways. you can really tell that the toy maker behind it put a whole lot of thought into these, and it compels a curious creature like you. All these very subtle differences may even urge you to look at every single individual piece closely and find every new quirk from the ones you played with before. You also notice that from within every single block lives a funny little guy that's oddly aware of all the other blocks. And while he appears to be a lazy bonehead to everyone around him, all this time he's actually been grappling with the limitations of his existence. That is, being bound to the motions of that one single block of his, out of many. And something's not right here. Perhaps he never even belonged to that playset in the first place. Like some kind of broke playing piece, misplaced in the wrong playset. Then suddenly he winks and cracks a cheesy pun at you. You close the playset. And on the outside, blissfully toying around with everything, is you! An inquisitive block game enthusiast who may also be living inside of a block of their own. Don't worry about what I just said. Let's just move on. The philosophy of Perdurantism, and despite everything, you're still you. Running forwards with these concepts of eternalism and eternally fixed time, we dive into a philosophy called Perdurantism, which deals with identity and states that every instance of us in the past and the future yet to come all exist and are just as real as who we are right now. To make this a little more easier to comprehend, I'm gonna don my little animation hat here for a moment and start with a little comparison. It's very similar to how a cartoon character may exist as 2D cells that can all stack together into 3D space to create something like this. And as you stack every single frame together, the character extends taller and taller into 3D space until it starts to resemble a worm. So if we return back to the 4D Minecraft block of the universe, you're in there somewhere, like a 3D version of all the 2D animation cells. And each of your temporal parts, that is every single instance of you throughout time, all stretches out into that 4D space, kind of resembling a worm. A space-time worm. No, I did not make that up. People actually call it that. So, no matter how much you've changed or have gone through in the past, and no matter how much you'll experience in the future that will alter who you are in this present moment called now, despite everything, you're still you. And nothing could ever take that away, not even the relentless passage of time. Sounds kinda nice, right? But this all presents quite the fatalist conundrum, does it not? Guess it's time to crack open this existential can of time-space worms. May I introduce determinism and the philosophy of determination. So what even is determinism? The philosophy of determinism argues that free will, aka the ability to make choices and decisions, doesn't actually exist. According to hard determinism, you are always destined to make all of the choices you've made and will make because of a hard fixed sequence of cause and effect. Is everything that has happened, is happening, and will happen just a very long domino reaction starting from the Big Bang? And if all of us are just living through a life that has already been set in motion from the very start, like we're all just performing the script to a show, or reading out the words to a book, or playing through the pre-programmed sections of a video game, then does free will actually even exist? And, why is there such a huge emphasis within Deltarune on themes such as will, future, fate, control, autonomy, and freedom? Could all of this have to do with the philosophy of determinism? If to determine is to choose, control, and influence, maybe determination in Deltarune is simply the power of self-determination. In other words, willpower by oneself without outside influence. You know, having full control over fate. And since the Dark World's very being and purpose is formed from a Lightner's will, of course a Darkner like Queen would say that all Lightners have determination. And similarly, looking from the outside, the player who exists outside of time for the Deltarune universe has complete control over the Lightners and the Light World's fates. So perhaps the power of determination could all be a matter of perspective. Now, I want to look back to some of the important aforementioned philosophies: eternalism, determinism, possibilism, and video games. What if we, the outside forces to this contained universe, were brought into it to change a singular reality into a possibilistic one? When Susie says, "Your choices don't matter," she's not talking to us, she's talking to Chris. And when the voice in the beginning says, "No one can choose who they are in this world," they emphasize this and not the world. They're talking specifically about the Deltarune universe and all of its inhabitants. They live in a deterministic society, but not anymore. Thanks to the device, which allows all of us to experience their world as an RPG, down to the character creation segment, the UI, the RNG, the save files, and the choices. And as long as us, the players, are connected to Chris's soul, that universe will be possibilistic, with branching narratives just like a video game. That is, until we are severed. Then all the different timelines coalesce back to its singular flow. Notice how every time Chris rips out their heart, there's only one cutscene? So you might be wondering, what's the point of all this? Why even go through all the effort to connect us in the first place? Well, maybe we were sought out specifically for the powers we had in Undertale. According to these cryptic release tweets, it seems like we were brought in for our ability to create a future. New future. So perhaps there was a future already in place, one that wasn't satisfactory, and we've been introduced to change it using our omni-powerful gamer abilities. Maybe not by creating multiple endings, because we already know, according to Toby, that there's only going to be one, but instead altering its context. And how do we recontextualize an ending? By changing everything that's come before. Anyways, moving on from all that, there's actually one more thing I want to talk about. The philosophy of eternalism, and don't forget, I'm with you in the dark. With all this existential talk, I don't blame you if you leave with a newfound sense of dread. You know, these ideas that past, present, and future are all equally set in stone, and that free will doesn't exist. And also that time is just an illusion of our limited perception. Yes, they are quite intimidating to think about, but I do believe these ideas can be incredibly uplifting as well, especially in regards to one thing. Most of us in our lifetimes will deal with grief or bereavement, whether that be something you enjoy suddenly ending, or drifting apart from a close friend, or losing someone dear. I too am familiar with it, more than I would like to. And although the circumstances I've experienced weren't as shrouded in mystery, still, just like Noelle, I found myself constantly wondering this question about my loved one. Where are you? Are you in the ground? Are you in the sky? Are you nowhere? Nowhere sounds really, really lonely. And it felt so viscerally wrong that they, as I knew them, were stuck in the past, while I was trapped in the present, and the world just kept moving on without them in it. It felt like the very fabric of time and space itself were keeping us apart, and there was absolutely nothing in my power that I could do about it. But one thing that really helped me cope were learning about these ontological theories of time, and realizing that somewhere, out there in space-time, the two of us are frozen in the past, having just as much fun as we used to, and there's nothing in the entire universe that can ever change that. I don't know if the Holiday Sisters will get their fairy tale ending, where Des returns home safely and everyone is happy, though it is a really nice outcome to see. But an ending where Noelle confronts a harsh reality without her sister isn't too bad either. One where she's finally able to move on, where she comes to terms with this unrelenting continuum that all of us are bound by, where we can't always have our loved ones by our side. whether that be being separated temporally, or spatially, or even hyperspatially. In the end, it's because of this distance in the first place that we can cherish them so much and carry the memories we have with them closer to us. And hey, even though we can't physically see our lost loved ones anymore, as long as we hold our memories with them dear, they're still with us in the places that we can't see. Finally, I want to bring up a song that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, one that delves into everything I've taught you today. This song is called Time Adventure by Rebecca Sugar. Sugar, who at the time was one of the storyboarders for the cartoon Adventure Time, wrote this song for its finale and dedicated it to its showrunner, Anna Muto. Within it, she connects the ontological nature of time to the eternalist medium of animation, with lyrics such as, "Time is an illusion that helps things make sense, so we're always living in the present tense," referencing time as viewed by Albert Einstein, and within philosophy and theoretical physics, "will happen, happening, happened," which alludes to eternalism and the equally real and eternally fixed past, present, and future, and the lyrics "inside a billion tiny frames so that we can see it all, which compares life's countless number of moments to the many frames of a cartoon, and our remarkable ability as viewers to go back and rewatch our favorite moments as we please, over and over and over again. From these connections, Rebecca Sugar crafts this song overflowing with sentimentality, all about friendship, nostalgia, and the nature of time. Perfectly befitting to end off this goofy, long-lasting cartoon that a lot of us grew alongside with. Looking at all this, I can't help but wonder, what is Toby Fox trying to tell with Deltarune? You know, similar to how the song Time Adventure creates a message out of the eternalist medium of animation, what moral or message is Deltarune trying to relay using the possibilist medium of video games? I mean, the great thing about fiction, whether it be literature, movies, cartoons, or games, is that unlike within our reality, their narratives aren't restricted by the laws of time and space. And sometimes, when they bend it, they can say something very profound about ourselves, our relationships, and the world and our place in it. And I have no doubt that Deltarune will leave us with a newfound outlook on life too. We're only 2 chapters into the game, so only time will tell. But maybe the core message of Deltarune will share similarities to those told in some of the works I'm showing on the screen right now. Finally, before I end off this very long video, how about we take a closer listen to that certain song I mentioned earlier. Please enjoy.
Time is an illusion that helps things make sense, so we're always living in the present tense. It seems unforgiving when a good thing ends, but you and I will always be back then. 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 Singing, will happen, happening, happened. Will happen, happening, happened. And will happen again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. If there was some amazing force outside of time to take us back to where we were, and hang each moment up like pictures on the wall inside a billion tiny frames so that we could see it all, it would look like will happen, happening, happened. Will happen, happening, happened. And will happen again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. 'Cause you and I will always be back then. That's what You and I will always be best friends.